Movement Young Adults, what is going on? Pastor Timothy here, and we have another incredible podcast for you today. Family, I have an incredible guest with me, my brother from another mother, Armando. Bro, can you introduce yourself?
What's up? What's up? Yeah, my name is Armando. I am one of the staff members here at Trinity Church. Just excited to bond and talk with Pastor Tim today, and thanks for having me, man.
Come on, man, it's good. Can you let the people know what you do? Because, bro, like especially during this like pandemic, and it's been super cool to see your responsibilities and Pastor Matt's responsibilities really intertwine to really create, man, a dynamic presentation of the gospel that would not happen if it wasn't for you and Pastor Matt.
Yeah, it's been really cool to be used in another level during this whole time. What Pastor Matt and I do, we're actually the media guys here at Trinity. We are the ones who make the outside world see what's going on here in the church building. So between the two of us, we handle the services being streamed, being marketed on social media, kind of just getting the news out about what we got going on. So I'm pretty much more in charge of the social media aspect and the website and kind of pushing what's coming up out there. But yeah, man, it's just been a whole nother level.
That's it. I think it's cool that all the different levels of ministry there is involved, right? And so sometimes people can have a wrong misconception about ministry and think that you only called if there's a microphone in your hand and you're preaching, or if you're teaching on Sunday school. But that is just not the case at all.
Not at all. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I so appreciate, man, you and Pastor Matt and the team and the whole tech and media team, because y'all are modern day scribes, and there's people who never step foot in the church but will see the church scrolling through their phones or seeing it on YouTube. And God can do some amazing things. So family, with that in mind, we have an incredible topic for you today. Listen, some of you all are so frustrated. You're looking around your life. You are questioning your dreams. You're comparing yourself to other people, saying, I did not think my life will be like this. So family, but it's important to know that you are in a place that God can use and a position that God can use to bring you to your next place. So we got a great conversation today, fam. You ready for this?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Come on. So fam, once again, grab a cup of Cafe Bustelo, grab an ice cold Malta or horchata or whatever your choice, fam, and let's get right into this.
Let's go.
So Armando, man, like I said, like we were saying in the intro, that you are involved in tech and media and social media, like the algorithms, like everything that's super important has always been important, especially during this times where we've been social distancing and making sure we're creating a dynamic representation of the gospel, presentation of the gospel wherever we go, man. But have you ever in your life, like when you were growing up, did you see yourself sitting in the seat you're in right now?
I honestly don't think I did. I think I went on a very specific journey in my life to get to where I was, kind of taking some twists and turns that I did not know would even get me to this position.
What can you elaborate on that? Like, because I'm asking this because there are, I think, like I said, we're the young adults, right?
Yeah.
And so when we were growing up, we're always been asked the question, man, what are you going to do when you grow up?
Right.
And you feel like you had time. And now we're like, well, I'm grown. What am I doing now?
Yeah.
Right. And so, because you worked at Apple, right?
Yeah. So I actually have had a few tech positions before this. It's kind of neat how God worked everything together. I mean, He has been very intentional with my placement when it comes to being here at Trinity, but also relationships that I built along the way. I mean, the main draw and part that God has played has really actually revolved with the lead of our house right now, as you know, Pastor Jamie, and him and I have always been close since I've been in middle school. I was under his ministry when he was a youth pastor, and I built a relationship with him. A long story short, with the personal side, I actually ended up marrying his daughter, which kind of came at its own unexpected path too, because growing up, she's a few years younger than me, and we weren't thinking about that when I was in middle school in his youth group. And so it kind of took some time of like my adult life of like some different areas that God took me, and then reintroduced me to Pastor Jamie's daughter, that really kind of put a special bond there, and now we're family. But with that, it also had other opportunities as far as ministry and my work, and it's really neat how God will merge them, because I was in the youth group and I would be on the leadership, and I would actually help out with worship with Pastor Jamie, and still getting to help out around here with worship. But there was also my work side, and I started at a call center it was actually a place called Converges, and they had an Apple account. So like you mentioned, Apple, that was where my start was. I would just do tech support at this call center, and I didn't know how long I was going to be doing it. I didn't know if I was going to be any good at it. I knew I liked technology.
Yeah.
And that kind of opened some doors to later on. I did tech support for an internet company. It was Bright House. If you guys have heard of it, it was actually the company right before Spectrum, which is what's around now. So I got some internet experience and things like that. And then I got back to Apple, and not for Converges. I was directly at Apple Corporate, and I was able to do some more tech support, do some higher level stuff, which later on brought me to the Apple Store. And I just thought I was going to be a tech guy. I thought I was just going to be working for the Apple, one of the big companies out there, which would have been cool. I mean, I was cool with it. I enjoyed it. They treated me very well. But I also had some things going on underneath it all. Like God was doing some stuff in the background that I had no idea.
Come on.
I mean, when I married Pastor Jamie's daughter, and we've had a close relationship, him and I have still been able to keep caught up with what's going on in my life. But at the same time, in my work life, there was Christians that were being brought into my path. Like, I don't know. Have you ever noticed when you're out in the world, if you're doing something with a hobby or you're doing something with a friend, like people can tell if you have the Spirit of God in you, but just by being around you. And that was really, really cool to see when I was at the call centers, when I was at the Apple Store. Like, I think Christians can be drawn together, and it's really neat. I mean, and so I had a guy there who we ended up bonding at the Apple Store of all places, like working for Apple, and an opportunity came up for being a part of his church later on, because he was leaving Apple just to move on to be in ministry, and it didn't line up with me directly, just because of like some statistical things. I didn't get to be over there, but that opened the door to show, hey, I'm not just going to be at Apple all my life. I'm actually willing to be in ministry, to be in a part of a church. So that's what Pastor Jamie saw as well, and offered me a position here to be on this awesome team. And let me tell you, man, it's definitely been a God thing.
Come on.
So
Come on. God's placement
yeah,
is absolutely incredible, isn't it?
it's mind-blowing.
And so I was thinking, man, while you were talking, we see the benefit we have of reading the Bible is that we can fast forward pages.
Yeah.
And we can see someone's end of their life or the result of their faithfulness. We can go back and see the silver thread, or the scarlet thread rather, all throughout their life.
Yeah.
And so like David's ability to confront Goliath, right? His testimony of that he shared with Saul, that and that eventually would persuade Saul to let him fight Goliath, was in his job of watching his father's sheep.
Yeah.
So he may have thought that all his life he was just going to be a shepherd, and maybe he was cool with that. Right. And so, because by no means are we saying that being called into ministry is greater than being faithful for what God has you to do. Right. The Bible says, I've given God glory by completing the assignment he gave me. If God calls you to be a full-time mom, be a full-time mom.
Yeah.
God called you to be an auto mechanic, be an auto mechanic. We glorify God by completing the assignment he gave us. But there still is ministry in what you are doing.
Absolutely.
Right. So David was out watching his father's sheep, whether he didn't like it or whether he liked it, he was just faithful in it. That's where he encountered the moment when the lion and the bear came after his sheep, and he ran after, struck it, and killed it.
He was building his resume.
Thank you, bro. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Building his resume. And And then we see how everything orchestrated in his life. And so I just think as young adults, fam, it is vitally important for us not to be so frustrated in a season of our life
Yeah.
that we think there's no purpose in what we're doing.
Yeah. And a lot of it too, I mean, if you ever heard the saying, let's focus on the silver lining, there's always a silver lining, that cliche. I mean, if you now put that into the spiritual sense, I mean, how can God use my place now?
Come on.
There's always a way. There's always like God's way, which is so much better than our own ways.
Talk about that.
And our own plans. I mean, I even talked about this in a devotion I did a few weeks ago, that like you can expect the unexpected when it comes to God, because you even look at Abraham in the Bible, and when he had this big promise from God about having a son, even in his old age, he's got this son. Life is good. Now he's being tested, and we come to find out, like you said, you can fast forward, but he didn't know this at the time. He's being asked to sacrifice that son now, and like just the obedience there, and be like, you know what, God, you've been faithful this far. I'm just going to keep going and follow you. And he was taking up his son to do it, but then God throws in unexpected and brings the sacrifice, brings the ram. So just being like faithful and where you are and obedient to God, even if you don't know where that's going to take you, even if some things seem off, or man, how could God use this? He'll use it.
Sure enough, Will.
Yeah.
I remember I wanted to go play sports in school, right? And my parents, we grew up in crazy poverty, like dumb poverty.
Yeah.
And I remember when my parents got divorced, it got even worse. So then I had to get a job. I had to get a job regardless. But I had to get a job, and I remember having to say no to sports, right? And this was the years that people were coming in and checking things out or whatever. And I remember like going to football practice, leaving football practice early, changing clothes, going to work, working all evening, only to do the same thing.
Yeah.
And I remember I was so angry at God because I felt like he portrayed me and forfeited my dreams. But looking at it, back at it now, when God called me into ministry, if I was not in that place of just hunger, expectation, God, what do you want me to do with my life? If I had still had to entertain sports, be honest with you, at that time, I don't know if I would have said yes to God. It's almost as if I felt like that God had to do what he did for Moses and bring him into a desert place so he can have that burning bush experience where he had nothing else to play tug of war with. Right. So I think it's important, family, for us to know that God can use the good of our life, and God can use the bad things that's going on in our life.
Absolutely.
To propel us or to place us, position us to a place of advancement in areas to be used. It truly is, man, just like recycling, nothing is ever wasted in God's hands.
Man, no way, man. And he will use the things that you don't think he'll use.
Come on.
I mean, so, all right, even here, I mean, knowing my youth pastor and getting to hang out with him, I never would have thought that one day he'd be my father-in-law. I mean, like, I'm just thinking he's a cool guy that's sharing the Lord with me. And I already had my spiritual parents. My parents have always raised me with the Lord, and I've always been very thankful for that. And so I've had that in my life. But little did I know, this other person that I'm building a bond with that later became my father-in-law, I'm like, well, that's just awesome. I mean, it's just cool how that worked out. And I know for a big part of my life, my big dream was having a family, getting married, and having kids.
Come on.
I don't know if this is bad, but I never really like strived to have like a big job, like be an astronaut or NBA player and anything like that. I enjoyed it. I got plenty of hobbies, plenty of fun stuff that I've done in my life, like sports and music and all these different things. But man, I just wanted to find that person. And little did I know, again, like God was already placing me, not just in me looking out in the world, but just by me being obedient where I was and being here at Trinity and getting involved in my youth group and building a bond with my youth pastor, that later on I would, through that relationship, through that bond, be in the place to be able to meet my future wife. And so it was really cool, man, just to see how God, even my brother-in-laws, it's so funny. Like Joshua Jones is the youngest of the brothers and of their kids. And he was always looking up and kind of meeting me and hanging out, even when he was a little kid. And then one time there was a talent show here, and he even invited me on stage. I mean, so we built a bond when we were really young, and now I'm the worship leader over in the youth group with my other brother-in-law. And so it's just really cool how like I get to be close with my whole family in a way that I didn't even know was ever going to happen. So I just think God's timing is so cool, man.
It's just super important that we don't put an end to our own stories.
Yeah. Or try to find it too early.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. And there's, I mean, don't get me wrong, fam. We should have drives. We should have goals.
Yes.
You should have a desire, fam, just
Yeah.
to see your dreams come to pass. I mean, we're not negating from that. I'm not saying to take your hand off the plow.
Right.
But I am saying that in your season, trust that God knows what's best, right? He'll literally bring us like a GPS, right? He'll bring us to that destination, or instruct us to be faithful with the driving, so we will end up at that place.
Man, and it's so crazy because I'm getting chills right now and goosebumps just because I'm feeling the Holy Spirit. Just because not only does God know how to create our path and the path for us to follow and be our GPS, but man, he knows us.
Well,
he knows what will work with us. He knows what to put in our way. He knows like all the pieces in our life that will get us to that successful future. So when you are faithful to him, when you trust him in every circumstance, even if it's a questionable circumstance, he knows you. He knows your heart. That's why it's so good to have dreams and goals and expectations, because he will use those. So when you have those and you're faithful and you trust him, he's going to make those things happen. So it's so cool, man, just to see how he will use the unexpected times and place you in the perfect place, because it may not seem like it at the time, but it is.
The Bible says, man, the steps of a righteous man are ordered by the Lord, right? Scripture says, he is a lamp unto my feet and the light unto my path.
Yeah.
And I find it remarkable because in order to order my steps to where I need to go, he has to know the destination. Yeah. So where we're counting up, God's counting down.
Yeah.
When we're counting 0, 1, 2, 3, he's counting 3, 2, 1, 0.
Yep, you're almost there.
And so because he's on the other end trying to help navigate through our own type of wilderness, to our own levels of questioning, of our own season of uncertainty, of our hard times or bad times or great times or good times or times of success or our times of despair. Like he knows how to navigate it through it. Yeah. But what I find incredible and what we need to learn how to do is, to me, it's not the order of faith. To me is not 1, 2, 3, because we miss that 0. Mm-hmm. It's that initial step into the complete unknown. Yeah, to me it's 0. Oh snap! Okay. Oh, Timothy, take that step. 1. Oh, 2, 3. But we have to be brave enough and have this courage and this level of trust to trust God in whatever season that we're in, to step into seasons that may be unknown to us, but understand that it is thought of him. And lastly, is the Bible says this, that for the very hairs of your head are numbered. Like, it's the very hairs of your head. And I always heard that verse, Armando, people talking about using it as if to describe like death and things of nature. But reality, that's not really necessarily what it means. Like, family, God knows you so detailed, in such a detailed way. If you were brushing or combing or picking out your hair, and the 1,000,001 strand of hair hit the ground, he knows which strand of hair hit the ground, and how many strands are still in your head. Because he knows you in that much detail. Yeah. So surely if a God who knows us in that detail and knows us better than we know ourselves, surely he can help navigate us through whatever season of life we may find ourselves in.
Yeah. And like you're saying, even too, about starting from 0. I mean, if you think about it, you may feel like you're on a path that maybe you're stuck in, like, oh man, I wanted to go down a different path. I wanted to start at a different 0. Well, look at a book. There's different chapters to a book. There's different chapters to our life. Come on. There's different zeros. You got different places where you can start. You got checkpoints. Once you have decided to let go and let God, if you watch this video and you're like, at this point, you know what, man, that spoke to me. I got to do this. I got to put myself aside. You just started. You just started at the unknown. So just go.
Armando, how do we? Because I think here's the thing. Like how do we help those who are watching, where they feel like their placement is so difficult, and they're so frustrated in the season that they just want to quit, and they want to say enough is enough. I'm done with this. How would you encourage those who are watching that maybe that even when God was leading God and you through your life, how did you refrain from quitting?
I think the best thing I would say that I've ever realized in my life is that God knew you before you existed. God has been working in your life since before your parents existed. He's been planning things out for you. So where you are now is not just between a hard place and a, whatever that saying is, between a difficult place and stuck between two hard places. That's not where you are. It is a part of your story. God knows and is not surprised by the area that you are in, and he already has, like we've talked about, the next step to get out of that area that you're in. So just knowing that and having the assurance that you are living with that relationship in you, that you have a relationship with God and you have a relationship with Jesus, like with the Holy Spirit just running your life, you have the GPS already in you. You already have the next step in you. You just have to bring it out, and God will bring it out. So that's gotten me through a lot of my different areas of my life. So just coming back to that simple principle of God's got it.
Yeah.
God's got it in you already is what I think is so important to come back to over and over again.
Because I think, like I said, sometimes we need to learn how to trust even when we don't understand.
That's big, yeah.
And when we are naturally like very analytical and very like connect the dots, it's just really hard to do. When we need all of our ducks in a row before we act.
Yeah.
That's a hard place to live.
I mean, I'm like that in a lot of ways. I like having lists and things to check off and things that make sense, and there's totally nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think God uses that. But in the sense of who he is, there is so much about him that does not connect the dots and not analytical that we have to realize that may be a nature of us, but that's not his nature.
Come on.
His nature is supernatural. His nature is above and beyond anything we could ever expect. So if you are an analytical person, he will use that.
Come on.
And he will create areas that you can be analytical in. You can have steps on what you want to get away from to avoid to get yourself out of the area that you're in. But you can also have steps on what you're going to do to improve. I mean, God will use it.
That's it, fam.
God will use it.
Truly, like I like, I've been growing to appreciate art, right? And I think art is just like every art is a physical representation of an inward vision, right? That's what that to me. That's what art is.
Yeah.
And I like there's this I forget where it was, like Ripley's Believe It or Not, and I remember I was walking in it, and there was this incredible picture that was made, or this, I don't know what you call it, picture or something that was made out of Skittles.
That's awesome.
And you can definitely tell who it was, and like they had like out of Skittles. I'm like, how in the world? Or you see these people go in the junkyards and finding all these miscellaneous parts, and creating something so perfect, or something where other people, check this out, where other people in their junkyard devalue, but when it was crafted in a master's hands, people wanted to pay for it.
Oh man, absolutely.
And so people wanted to observe it. People wanted to see it. It was in demand. And I think it's very important to know that maybe you feel like you're in the junkyard of life. Maybe you feel like you got nothing but pieces. Maybe you feel like this is a waste of time. Don't forsake what can happen in your life when you place your life in the master's hands, because he will use whatever you feel like is miscellaneous and it's not important. It's a waste, or it's just this job, or it's just I'm just working at Domino's. I'm just working at Blockbuster. They don't know about that before their day.
I know,
I'm just
school.
working at something. How in the world can God usually use this? But maybe in that job, he taught you leadership skills. Maybe that job, he taught you time management. Maybe that job, he taught you conflict resolution, that you don't know how imperative that's going to be into your life. And so I realized this, bro. I wasn't able to play basketball in the way I was wanted to do. But when I was youth pastoring in North Carolina, I was a 9th grade basketball coach, a junior varsity basketball coach, and a varsity basketball coach. And that I was able to shine a light in a place where I never would have been invited to if I didn't have a background to do it. And so yes, my thought of my dreams didn't look like what I wanted to, what I thought of the past, but God still didn't waste any of it.
Right.
You feel me?
That's
and
the thing.
He really won't, bro.
Yeah. And you can't limit what God will do. I mean, there's no telling all the things that he has for us and all the ways that he has planned for our situations, for our chapters, for our journeys to be used. So it's so, I feel like it can be such a simple thing to grasp that people miss it or people get tired of it.
Come on.
And you can't. You got to keep coming back to that. And the God made it's simple for a reason. Don't we need simple?
There it is.
I mean, aren't we imperfect people that, like, when things get hard, the going gets tough, we can quit or not have enough passion? So I think that the important things that are simple, like letting go and letting God and trusting in his plan and knowing that he's going to throw unexpected things your way and he's going to use where you are now, it may sound so, oh, that's too easy to hear. I mean, that's all I got to go back to is just let go and let God. I mean, it's so important, and man, it's structural.
What verse has really helped you to carry you through?
I think it's a verse you guys are gonna have heard before, but for me, a big verse that is just resounded is Jeremiah 29:11. Man, God knows, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you, plans for future, give you a future and a hope, not to hurt you. And that simple statement, that simple message to my life has just brought me through so many areas, man, and encouraged me through so many things. So that is something that I think is a very easy one to write down and remember because it's so applicable to so many areas.
Man, bro, can you believe we've already been talking for 23 minutes?
No.
It's crazy, fam. And I hope y'all have been getting a lot out of this podcast.
Yeah.
Because listen, all of us are different seasons of life. You know what I mean? And the young adult age group, here's the movement, man, we have from the ages 18 to 30. And then the placement of life for the 18-year-old straight out of high school, beginning college is different than like us as parents and young husbands and young daddies and things of that nature, right? We're just a different aspect of life, but we're regardless of where we may be placed in life, man, God still wants to do something so unique. And I just think it's important. Let frustration fuel you, not keep you.
Yeah.
Right. Let's you're frustrating your job, man. Whatever. Like, let that be fuel for you to aspire, maybe get education or further education or learn a different trade or something, but whatever it may be. But just don't throw in the towel. Don't just throw up your hands in the air and say you quit. But man, just be encouraged to know that God will use wherever you're at to bring you to wherever he wants you to be whoever he's called you to be.
Yeah. And I mean, even one more thing too, like God's not going to, you don't have to do it alone either. I mean, there are people that get put in your life that have the same interests as you, whether it be a spouse, a significant other, or a friend. I mean, Pastor Tim and I brought together, we geek out over video games and superheroes. I mean, and working out in sports and all that stuff. So like, God will put people in your life to set you up for that success, and you don't have to do it alone. I mean, God's not just being like, hey, I got a plan, you got to figure it out on your own, you're in the dark. That's not it at all. So be open to those people in your life and just trust God that he's going to create a way where you won't know there's a way. And again, you're not going to do it on your own. Oh,
come on, family. Fam, this has been absolute incredible conversation, and we have so much we want to say.
Right.
And Armando, is there any lasting words that you may have for those who are watching or listening?
The last thing I could say is when God has a plan for you, it's such a good plan. So when you rely on him and you apply all these things that we talked about, I promise you at the end of the day, you're going to be so fulfilled, satisfied, happy with your life, because yes, we're going to have sin in our background, or hurt in our past, or things that we can't believe we've lived through. But through all that, through the people that we are becoming, God has that perfect, happy ending for us, as long as we are ready to receive it and be trusting.
I know it's hard to look at where you are, which may be tangible, and have hope for something intangible, untangible, whatever the right word is,
Right.
and think that you can never arrive. But just remember, the placement that you're standing right now, you used to think where you're standing would be impossible. You used the car that you drive before you had a car, and you were raising money and wondering how in the world can I afford something. You're literally living an answer of your blessing. And the same God who did it yesterday, the same God who do it today. But just like manna, that trust need to be gathered every day.
Yeah.
That tenacious drive need to be gathered every day. The gall to continue need to be gathered every day. And it's imperative that we learn how to walk with God. So remember, it's not necessarily 1, 2, 3. It's 0, 1, 2, 3. And it's taking that step into unknown, taking that leap of faith. There's this cartoon I like. I think it's called Upward, right? It's I think it's called Upward. No, not Upward. Onward. It's where they I'm
The one that
butchering
they're
it.
going after their father.
Yeah, they're going after
Onward, yeah.
Onward. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's called on. I'm country, y'all. Onward. and there's this scene where he's learning the magic thing,
Yeah.
and he's trying to pass over this chasm.
Yeah.
And his brother puts a rope under his waist because he want to make sure he's secure.
Yep.
And so eventually he's stepping into a level of faith and a level of understanding. But the rope comes off.
Yeah. Slack is gone.
His slack is gone, and he has no idea the training wheels is off.
Yep.
And he's literally doing what he feared or thought incapable of him to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like that. I feel like there's so much that we disqualify ourselves for.
Right.
And there's an unknown chasm we have to traverse. But God is like, will you trust me with every step?
Yeah, man, because doubt will play a part. We can't think that we're going to make it in the area that we're in, that we aren't strong enough, or it's too hard. But God doesn't just make this thing hard. He makes it fun. He makes it an adventure. So that's a great example. I mean, too, like when you're looking at this big picture called life, it's an adventure. God doesn't just make it a job or anything like that, or a hard thing. I mean, God makes it fun. God's a good God. Come
on, somebody. So Movement Young Adults, do me a favor. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. We have consistent podcasts coming. We're trying our best to make sure it's weekly. And make sure you go ahead and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify as well. One word, the Movementfla. Family, we have service every Thursday here at Trinity Church. The Movement Young Adults is the young adult ministry of Trinity Church. Go ahead and visit our website here at Trinity at www.trinityfla.com. Every Thursday at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, we have in-person services right in the sanctuary, and you have plenty of room to spread out. Again, we are keeping all safety and everything in mind as well. We want you to know that it is okay for you to still watch and stream service on Thursday on our YouTube channel at the Movementfla as you take steps in your own level of caution. And so we appreciate you, we value you, and we look forward to connecting with you all soon. Armando, thank you so much, bro.
Thank you, man,
for being in this podcast. And I know those who are watching has been richly blessed from your wisdom and your experience.
Appreciate it.
All right, fam. God bless you all. Peace.
Take care.